My name is Tim, I'm an addict. Thank you to everyone that's organised this and the welcome I've received here in Newcastle. I'm a member of more than one fellowship, and I have to say, don't tell the other fellowships this, but I really like talking to CA people. I just love the energy here. My clean date is the 24th of July 1993. And the reason I'm standing up here is simply it's my turn. We're all on the same level in CA. No one's above anyone else. No one's below anyone else. If you feel you don't belong here, the fact you're in the room means you belong here. And I think I'm confident in saying that because I trust that God puts me wherever I need to be, whenever I need to be there. So I'm trusting that God has you here as well for good reasons. I felt alone my whole life. God was with me the whole time. I had no idea. Looking back, I know that God was there. People often say when they talk about their drinking, their using, their whatever, you know, I was 12 when this happened, I was 7 when that happened, I was 14 when I first took my whatever. I realised recently when my addiction kicked off, my first addiction was not even a substance, it was something else. When that kicked off, I was still a child. That's the point. It's not the age, it's the fact I was a child suffering from full-blown addiction. And I didn't stand a chance. I had no skills. I was putty in addiction's hands. And yeah, alcohol, drugs, all sorts of behaviours. I'm a member of Al-Anon as well. I've been a member of Al-Anon since 1995 to help me stay in CA and AA and cope with all of the addicts and alcoholics there. I need every fellowship that's going. I need every step that's there. I'm still here after all these years, not because I'm competent at recovery, not because I'm good at this. It's because I recognise I'm not. And I need you. And I need these rooms. And I get up in the morning and I need the prayer on page 86 of the big book, God, please direct my thinking, as much now as I did when I was new. I'm here because I know I need to be. And to me, when I really committed to recovery, it was like locking a door and pushing the key out under the door so I couldn't escape. I thought, I'm just gonna be here for the duration now. That's what the surrender is. I'm going to be here for the duration. And there were people in my home group who would come along and just be out of it at the back of the room week after week. They were just the people that weren't going to get it, it appeared. And I thought, if I'm going to be here for the duration, I want to be clean. I can use the example of anyone I see. I just want the dignity of not having an active addiction in my life. That is enough. And I think it's so great that we talk about the promises of the big book. And every step has got instructions and warnings and promises. And I think the promises are great. But you know what? The greatest promise, it was read out this evening with step 10. The promise is that I never need to use again. I never need to drink again. I never need to suffer because someone else is drinking again. And it doesn't matter to me what emotional state I'm in. What I've learned over 33 years is emotions are going to come and go, moods are going to come and go. There was a period when I'm not a crier, but when I was 17 years sober and clean, I had 3 months when I was crying every day. I won't go into the reasons why. It wasn't very dramatic, it wasn't very interesting. There are going to be really tough times. And there are going to be wonderful times as well, of course. But the important thing is, today, I can just lie on my bed and wait for the emotion to pass. I don't need to fix it anymore. There is nothing left to fix. I'm fine with life. My friend Eamon, who was a drug addict in recovery, and he died clean of another illness when he was about 20 years clean. He said he didn't depend on his meeting, he didn't depend on his sponsor, he didn't depend on the fellowship, he depended on God, and all of those other things were used, and he depended on what it said in the big book. And if there was just one of the phrases of the big book, for instance, giving not getting is our guiding principle, if the fellowship disappeared and the book disappeared, or every copy except one, and the one phrase that was left was that, you could build the whole of recovery out of that one phrase. I never need to worry about anything. I have a program which will help me handle absolutely any situation. And today, I'm okay not because my life is great. My life is great. That's not why I'm okay. I'm okay because my higher power is with me the whole time. And today, I know it. I might go back and talk about some drinking and using and other things, but we'll see where it goes. I haven't planned what I'm going to say. But I know that I had a real problem for a very long time in recovery with prayer and meditation. I said the prayers I was told to say in a kind of automatic way, but honestly, I didn't believe it. And I loved the really practical side of recovery. I surrounded myself in recovery with people who were 20 or 30 years clean or sober and said, do this, go here, treat people this way, be nice to people, smile, be diligent at work, pay your bills, go to meetings, sponsor people. Lots of things to do. But inside me, there was something that was still wrong. And I did the steps well enough the first time to keep me sober, but I didn't want to address what was going on inside. And when I was, 3 years sober, I thought, I know, the thing that I've missed in recovery is meditation. And loads of kind of floaty people, the floaty people in recovery, just floating just above the ground, for whom everything is always a miracle. I'm not one of those people. I'm just a fundamentally problematic person. I'm never going to float. Which is a pity because I'm short, so it would really help to be able to reach things, but no. And they would always talk about meditation. So I thought, I know, I'll try it. And I, of course, went to the local bookshop, got a book on meditation, and it talked about adopting a particular posture. And there's nothing wrong with the book. It was written for people interested in Buddhism. It wasn't written for an addict. Those are different categories of people. Just note that. And it talked about adopting a particular position, breathing in a certain way, and watching my thoughts pass me like clouds or something like that. My thoughts do not look like clouds. My thoughts attack me relentlessly. The idea that meditation was me sitting alone, thinking my own thoughts and trying to separate myself just a tiny bit from them, to detach myself from my fucking thoughts. I was suicidal within minutes of trying meditation. Because this meditation was not designed for people like me. And I carried on reading the book, and there were lots of very, very sensible things in the book. But one of them said, if you do this kind of sitting, it was called, for 20 years, you might experience a breakthrough. And I was like, I'm on a schedule here. I'm going to be dead by Saturday unless I get some kind of relief from what is going on inside me. Do you have anything quicker? And then it talked about patience, and you just have to let this slowly develop organically. No. When I got into recovery, the relationship between the world of recovery and the Big Book was very, very different than it is now. The Big Book was mentioned, but that was it. The way you did the steps was however your sponsor happened to tell you to do the steps. And here's the amazing thing. God is incredibly generous and will reward sincerity of action. And I did the steps. I wouldn't give you tuppence for how I did them in the first year, but I did them as I was instructed. And there was a bit of an inventory. It was 7 pages long. I read it out to a sponsor. It had all of the details, all the major details on the major things I'd done, the nasty little secrets. I made amends. I made a few dozen amends. It wasn't the best step 8 in the world. I had to go back and redo step 8 later and fill in the gaps in between. It got me sober. It kept me sober. But we didn't look at the Big Book at all. What I love about the Big Book is it's written by people who know what we're like. And so the first thing it does when it talks about meditation, it says it's going to give us some definite and valuable suggestions. Very good. And it says, on awakening, we ask God to direct our thinking and we consider our plans for the day. So, such a relief to discover that meditation is not me being trapped in a room with my own whirling murderous thoughts. It's what's on the schedule for today. And that's it. What's troubling me? I can take things to God, the actual things in my life which are troubling me. It says elsewhere, page 69, about taking each questionable matter and giving it to God. Later on, place the problem along with everything else in God's hands. So, in the morning, I show up for my higher power. I show up for God. And I'm thick, which means I need images to work with. You say the word God, you say something abstract, I can't communicate to like an abstract thing like the spirit of the universe, which was a phrase which apparently Bill liked. I'm not like Bill. If I'm talking, I need to see who I'm talking to. I need God to be a person. So, and I need a setting. You can't have just someone floating in space. So I've got an image in my mind of it's just a nice place where I feel completely relaxed. And there's my higher power, there's God sitting there. And I say, right, matey, this is what we've got going on today. This is the schedule. These are the plans I've got so far. What do you think? And I get to think about the day. And then thoughts come. And they're almost always helpful. And if things are troubling me, I just say, okay, right, there are 7 things troubling me this morning. Ba-dum, 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 if that's 7. What am I going to do about these? And it's nothing fancy. I don't do like special writing. There are no special methods. There's no special technique. Literally talk to God. And then see what comes. And 95%, 99% of what comes back is stuff I've heard in meetings, of stuff I've heard friends in recovery say, or stuff I've read in a spiritual book. If something comes to you which you've not heard from someone else in recovery, check it out with someone else in recovery. If it's an idea which you've tried before and it hasn't worked, it's probably not from God, it's probably from your ego. There are a couple of little tricks there. But I just put my problems before God. And the funny thing is, sometimes what I get back is just nothing. And I figure, okay, I'm not supposed to know. But I've got a plan for the day, go to work, Work when I'm at work, as Bob Bazant says. Keep my mouth largely shut. See if I can be useful. Keep my mind on the task. Go home, make the dinner, be nice to my other half. It's not complicated. That's God's will for me. People try to read books about what God's will is for them. I don't know what kind of lives they have. I've got a job, I've got a home, I've got a family, I've got sponsees, I've got a home group. That takes up most of the time. What's God's will for me? To do each of those things properly and be less of a jerk than I was yesterday. Now, this asking God how to deal with problems. What then happens all through the day and for the days and the weeks afterwards, little things occur to me. I think, that's the solution. That's the solution. It doesn't come straight away because my relationship with God is not symmetrical. I'm a tiny speck of flesh full of conflict. God created the universe. We're not the same size. The communication is not symmetrical. So just as I say, God, come and tell me all the things I need to know, doesn't mean I'm going to hear it straight away. It's going to happen in God's time. And if I hear nothing, it's fine. It's because I'm not ready for it. And I trust that there is I'm supposed to talk about drink and drugs at some point. Maybe I'll get to that. There was a monk who was no slouch when it comes to God, we assume, who wrote this amazing prayer, and I haven't got it in front of me and I can't remember it exactly, but it's basically this: God, I have no idea what's going on here. I have no idea where I'm going. I don't understand anything. This was after him being a monk for 20, 30 years, praying for 20, 30 years in a Trappist monastery. But he goes on to say to God, but I trust the fact I want to do your will is good enough. And if you need to send me a little message to get me to adjust something, you'll do that. And I get that. I know when I'm doing something wrong. My job is simply to admit it promptly. So I've just got a very, very limited job. I don't have to work anything out. I just have to figure out what to do today. And most of that is given. And whenever I'm troubled, I used to take my little problem and trawl it round everyone I knew and thoroughly confuse myself with 47 pieces of advice. I do not do that now. I go to God and say, I'm fucked again. Can you help me, please? Help me, please is a very good prayer. I once thought I need to get better at prayer, so I bought the Oxford Book of Prayer, which is a compendium of prayers from every religion. I didn't know what to make of it. My favourite prayer from there was from a kitchen porter who would say to God, showing up for business, boss, or words to that effect. I threw the book away, no use for it. Because I can talk to a human being, so I can talk to God. I don't need special instruction. And this, maybe other people outside recovery are going to have some sophisticated relationship with God. I need a functional relationship with God. And the reason I need... we're going to get to drink and drugs now. This is how it's going to work. Okay, the reason I need a functional relationship with God is because there's a line... we're going to have a bit of audience participation as well. There's a line in the Big Book. If he failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through... Work and self-sacrifice for others. There we go. Work and self-sacrifice for others. 8 points to Slytherin. You'll win the house cup yet. The point, if you said to 100 people outside AA, how does someone enlarge and perfect their spiritual life? They'd say everything about religions or tarot cards or monasteries or going to Thailand on a special retreat or prayer, meditation, anything. I don't think anyone, unless you happen to get someone that was really in the know, would say work and self-sacrifice for others. So my life today, I'm showing up to God every morning to say, I work for you now. Now I've got my own business, although it's a fancy word for what it is. I do some things and they give me some money. I suppose that's a business. Now they're not paying me. God's paying me, and God pays me by telling them to pay me. So when a client doesn't pay, I say to God, can you sort that out? Because and if they never pay me, it was never God's intention to pay me. So I never have a problem with bad debts. If there's one, it's not really a bad debt. God never wanted to pay me. My deal is with God, not with them. Fuck them. I mean, I'm polite to them. I don't say that to their faces. But I've got one boss. It's better to be a people pleaser it's better to be a God pleaser than a people pleaser, because there's only one of him. So I do my best. I'm diligent at work. I'm courteous. But my relationship is not with them. My relationship is with God. I'm the agent. And it says in We Agnostics, intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation. I'm not accountable to anyone except God, not even a sponsor. That's going to be bad news for some of the sponsors in the room. But I was told when I was really new, I am responsible for my own recovery. No one else is responsible for my recovery. Old timers would call me back. They'd never call first. They wouldn't fuss around me. If I wanted their help, I had to go and get it from them. They wouldn't come and give it to me, keeping me company in my little cave of misery. They didn't give a shit about that. They said, we're at the meeting, come to the meeting, learn from us. Back to this point about work and self-sacrifice. So the job is to work for God. And what it says on page 19 is that most of us do this work of trying to sponsor other people. But then a much more important demonstration of our principles lies in our respective homes, occupations and affairs. That looks like a bridge out of recovery. That you get the good stuff here, you get well, and then you rush around building a big life. What it says there is that's what demonstrates that the program works. But the really high octane stuff remains what I do in recovery, trying to help other people by sharing my experience with them. That's the purpose of my life. That other stuff is great for demonstrating how the principles work in practice. But the important thing is this singular relationship with God in being a channel for other people, the way other people are a channel for me. You put two addicts together and God comes in the picture, but it requires the two addicts. So the most important thing in my life is carrying the message. If I'm carrying the message, if everything else turns to shit, it's fine. I'll have to sort it out, but it's essentially fine. My value as a human being, taken care of. My identity, taken care of. My purpose, taken care of. The other stuff can come and go. It's what's in here that matters. But why? Why do I have to have this relationship? And it's because this relationship with God, and it's because of addiction. So my addiction has got two elements. The first one is, if it's activated, good luck to me. A friend of mine explains this very well. Alcoholism is like dancing with a gorilla. You're not done dancing until the gorilla is done dancing. Except in the original story, it's not dancing, it's something else. The gorilla's going to have its way. And as my friend goes on to say, the Al-Anon thinks they can separate the addict from the gorilla, and the Al-Anon will get their arms and legs yanked off, not just by the gorilla, but by the alcoholic. If I were to go back into the cage, it might never let go again. Someone I'm very close to relapsed after many years, and he threw everything at trying to come back. We threw everything at trying to get him to come back. So many arrangements were made for treatment centres, and at the last minute, the plug was pulled every single time. So I can't afford for my addiction to be activated. And that means not just the drug that I use the most, but anything else, anything around it. Anything else that wasn't so much of a problem. I need a clear head. I need a clear mind. I can't be stimulating my system, finding behavioural substitutes for an addiction. There are lots of things that I don't do anymore. I've had to gradually stop doing a number of things. Every time I've stopped doing one of those things, my life gets richer, more interesting. It's not really giving anything up. It's being released from a prison. But the point is, if my addiction, full-blown, gets activated again, that could be curtains. So the one and no one can do anything about that. Once it's activated, fate brings a person back, in my experience. It says in Bill's story, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Now what that technically means is he went through a detox, fine. But more than that, it wasn't his choice. It was possible. It was made possible for him. And I realised in 1993, the fact that I could keep coming back from slip after slip after slip was not because I was smart and was looking after myself and I'd learnt a thing or two. I was being given the gift again. If I threw the gift away another time, it might be taken forever. And I've seen enough other people die to know that's the case. So, the bit that I'm clear on, the bit that I was clear on in 1993 is this must never be activated again. The bad news about addiction, it will be unless I have God in my life. My addiction, people say my addiction wants to kill me. It's not a little person inside me. It's just this empty, dead mechanism that just says, drink, drug, do whatever it is. It's just an impulse, but it's an impulse which is more powerful than the rest of my system put together. And it's not even because, it gave me a rush, it gave me a bit of excitement. It didn't actually solve any of my problems. It didn't even push all my emotions away. I was so much worse when I was using them when I wasn't. When I got into some form of recovery for the first time in 1990, when I was, say people doing the maths, I was 18. And for 2.5 months I was fine. My emotions were all over the place, but they had been before I ever used it. But things were a lot better simply because I wasn't using anything. The addiction has got this lie that it was doing something for me. It was doing nothing for me, never did. Bit of excitement. What is that worth? Nothing. So it's just this empty, dead parasite which takes hold of me, the host, and spins me some stories about how good it'll be if I go back. That's all. Nasty little mechanism. And the thing about relapse that I experienced in those months after I first went to a meeting before I had my last debacle, as Bill calls it, is that there's absolutely no warning. By the time it's activated, it's too late. And I remember leaving a meeting and realising I was going to use and thinking, that's so weird. I was saying literally 5 minutes ago how glad I was to be clean and sober. Look at me now. This is just odd because I know I'm going to use now. It was happening to me. I wasn't doing it. No defence at all. What happens when I have a relationship with God? It has to be a relationship which is there the whole time. It's just like with insurance. You can't buy insurance for the 5 minutes that the burglar is going to try your front door. You have to have the insurance in place the whole time because you don't know when it's going to be. It's exactly the same thing. For me to use again, 2 things would have to happen. The impulse to use would have to arise, and then I'd have to obey that impulse. 2 things. What recovery does for me in part means I very rarely get that impulse. But you're going to get it if you're like me. There are going to be funny little moments. I remember when a friend of mine relapsed 17, 18 years ago, and I went round. It was a close friend. I don't drop people just because they've relapsed. And I went round and we were talking, and the thought crossed my mind, you know what? This is tough. It would be easier if I joined him. There we go, little impulse. I was walking along the South Bank in London with a sponsee, an NA sponsee, and it was a hot summer's day. It was muggy, the clouds were low, very humid, and I saw someone with a pint of beer with little beads of condensation running down. And the thought occurred to me, I could grab that pint out of his hand and down it before he realised what was going on. I was in a restaurant about 10 years ago, and I realised I'd been looking at the optics for a couple of minutes and thinking, and some of the bottles, and thought, I've never seen that Freixenet before. I wonder what that's like. The thought is just going to occur, and much darker thoughts as well. Those are trivial ones. The thoughts are going to be there. I've been trained in recovery to treat my mind like this idiot monster in the corner that has nothing of value to tell me whatsoever, or at least that little addicty. The bit of my mind that has bright ideas, the bit that handles things at work is fine, the bit that plans the day is fine. It's that little bright ideas monster. I've learnt to treat that with such a pinch of salt. My life is structured around what the big book says. So it doesn't matter what the monster says. If the monster says use, I'm not doing what it wants anyway. I'm doing what my sponsor told me to do. I'm doing what the book tells me to do. So to stay sober and clean forever is, you handle it one day at a time, but there has to be a commitment. They used to say, Bill and Bob used to say to newcomers, people they're trying to carry the message to, do you want to quit for good and for all? And then the person would say, I can't do that. They say, no, but that's what you need to do. We're going to come to how you do it in a minute. And if the person said, yeah, I recognise there is no way I can drink safely, I'm prepared to quit for good and for all, then they would say, right, you do it one day at a time. Don't think about the future. Just do it. Just get to bed tonight. But there has to be the commitment forever. If the back door is left open, good luck to you. Because the addiction finds its way back. It finds its way back through the doctor's surgery. It finds its way back through the pharmacy. It finds its way back through over-the-counter products, which are perfectly legal to buy, but just give you a little this or a little that. I had to be prepared to face whatever life threw at me in order to be sober. It was no good having a conditional sobriety where I said, as long as I get the relationship, as long as I get my finances sorted out, as long as I get a job. It had to be no matter what. And that was my feeling the first day back from that last slip. If I can have the dignity of not being arrested ever again on a Saturday afternoon for causing a ruckus, that's enough. That's enough for me. And the funny thing is, basically, I was terrified of feeling bad. And what I've learnt to do with bad feelings is say, run away from them. Say, come at me. Come on. What, you want to have... Should we take this outside? To the feelings. Show me your worst. Just hit me with it. And it's got nothing. There's nothing there. You say, where are you? Where in my body are you? And it's gone. There's nothing to be frightened of here, I've learned. The really terrifying thing is my mind. It's not the feelings, it's my mind when it's in control. That's why I've learned to recognise it's like having whiny kids in the back seat. That's all. It's not reality. Just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. Some of the good things. I came into recovery with a bad case of addiction and a bad case of mental illness of all sorts. I score very highly on lots of screening questionnaires. Diagnoses were thin on the ground because as soon as I got wind that they were going down that route, I've known so many people in my family who, poor souls, were medicated to within an inch of their lives. I didn't want to be institutionalized. I became elusive. But I was extremely ill. I was antisocial. I had no skills. I had no job. I had no experience. I had no friends. When I joined recovery, I didn't have anyone to tell that I joined recovery. My life today is perfectly ordinary. There's nothing to shout about. I have an occupation which provides me with a livelihood. I have somewhere to live. I'm married to an adorable person who I've been with for 22 years. And you know what? We don't argue. And we've never had an argument per se. And I was asking him once, why do you think we don't argue? He says, we don't like it. We don't want to argue. We just like being with each other. That's the end of it. So we find a way. So I have a very, very peaceful home life. I was given the advice once, if you want a good relationship with your other half, it's just like with God. You say, thy will be done. So I just said, it's a very good idea, and we do that. And we don't have any arguments. Very, very simple. Why do I want my own way anyway? Is it because it's right? Is it because I've been proved again and again and again that getting my own way is the best thing for me and everyone? No. Some really bad things have happened in my life over the last few years. My mother's death was extremely difficult. My best friend died around the same time. My sister died. My other closest relative, my aunt, died around the same time. Another very close friend died of cancer. And of course I had a range of emotions. But you know what? I was fine. The building didn't shake. There were emotions, but I know there's no problem with emotions today. You're supposed to hear every instrument in the orchestra. It's not meant to be just a single note of bliss. There's no value in that. And I'm not frightened of the future. There's a chap in London, died many years ago now, called Spiritual Paul, who said that people were frightened of what's round the corner. He said, I'm not frightened of what's round the corner. I know what's round the corner. My higher power's round the corner, so I'll be fine. Fear is calculating without God. In any given moment, as soon as I say, God's with me, and I say to God, just, give me a little sign that you're there, knowing that God is there. In that moment, I'm suddenly okay. And it's always now. That's how I know I'm going to be okay in the future. What else? Structuring my life around AA. So I do a meditation meeting every morning online at 7 a.m. Every weekday at least, 7 a.m. And after that, I have a couple of hours of sponsees. And the way I sponsor people, I used to get all up inside people's business, and I don't anymore. Almost all of the time we spend is just talking about the book and how to apply it. And I hear the inventory and we tighten it up. Because I can't solve anybody's problems. My current sponsor, I call him that just to keep him on his toes. My current sponsor, I would send him, this is years ago, this was before he was my sponsor, I would send him these very long messages with complicated situations, and he'd just write back, breathe. He didn't try to solve any of my problems. Bill W. on page 15 says, my wife and I abandoned ourselves to helping others to a solution of their problems. They didn't solve other people's problems, they helped other people find God, and God solves the problem. I can't think of anything major or even anything minor over the last 33 years that hasn't ultimately resolved. I have a difficult personality and I have a job which suits it perfectly. You couldn't have designed it better. My job is to criticise things all day long. When I was in Newcastle city centre earlier, there was some gentlemen with a table with some posters on the table and some flags, and one had a megaphone, and they were shouting advice to the good burghers of Newcastle. No one was paying any attention. And I thought, lightweights, you need a megaphone for that? When I was out there, the trouble I caused in public, because I have a programme, I don't need to stand on corners and shout at strangers anymore. I'm so relieved about that, and so are they. Sometimes people talk about this, having a big life. I don't. I have a simple life. People talk about having a full life. I don't want a full life. It's like having a full room. You can't move around in it. I want a couple of good things, and I've got a couple of good things. But best of all, I talk about this to my best friend in AA. We spend a lot of time just sitting there, respectively in our own flats, just staring out of the window, thinking everything's okay. Allowing a gap between things, not having to rush around fixing everything the whole time. Just being is enough. And when just being is enough, you don't need any drugs. And the thought, my God, in that condition, when you're totally fine on your own, the thought of taking something, forget it. Because you're fine, there's nothing left to fix. And on that, I'm going to stop. Thanks for listening.